Indonesia and United Kingdom, for example, where they adopt the system of state religion. This indicates that we enjoy full freedom in this country, and we also enjoy religious tolerance. What happened recently, it is indeed just misunderstanding. It has nothing to do with religious freedom in our country.
Andreas, would you agree that it's merely a misunderstanding and nothing to do with religious intolerance in Indonesia?
I have to admit that it is not. That by design, there are problems in this country. Let me give some figures. Over the last 6 years, since President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono in power, there are more than 240 churches being closed down, and some were burned down using violence. And over the last 10 years, there were 10 Ahmadiyya mosques which are also being closed down using violence.
Well, let me ask you, why then? Why is this rise of attacks against these minority religious groups?
I think because there are two things. First, there is a rise of fundamentalism worldwide, not only in Indonesia, also in Europe, also in the United States. Secondly, because there is a tolerance, there is no action against mobs, against people who conduct violence. They are not arrested, they are not investigated, they are not jailed.
Muhyiddin.
Yes, as a matter of fact, why the churches were closed down? The government of Indonesia have got their own rule and regulation. If any Muslim or any followers of religion wanted to build a house of worship, they have to follow that kind of rule. For example, our Christian brothers, if they want to build a church, they have to collect at least now 90 persons. In addition to that, they have to get approval from 60 members of the society that can support the plan of the house of worship as a church.
Let me just stop you there and ask Andreas, what do you think of this? I mean, Muhyiddin is saying that this is merely a misunderstanding, that these churches were built illegally. Is that the case?
Well, there are some which did not get the legitimate signature. But there are many who got all of the signature, who got all of the permit, but still they are being closed down because of mob attacks. The thing is, no one was arrested for attacking churches.
This mob that you're talking about, who are they and why hasn't there been any action against them?
Oh, they are using a lot of organizations, the Defenders of Islam Front. There are many organizations, militias, they are armed, they are violent, they are burning places, they are attacking priests, etc., etc.
Muhyiddin, I see you nodding. You would agree that there have been attacks against minority religious groups. It's not merely a misunderstanding, is it?
Honestly speaking, we, Indonesia, is well known as the paradise of religious tolerance. Regarding the Ahmadiyyas, Ahmadiyya we consider is non-Muslim right from the beginning. Because even in the birthplace of Ahmadiyya is considered as a minority non-Muslim group.
But surely they must be allowed to be to worship. They must be allowed to do what they want.
They are given freedom to practice their own religion, provided they don't take the name of Islam.
Who are you to say what is Islam and what is not Islam?
Of course, like
there are different sects of Islam, isn't there? There are different branches.
I don't agree to say that sects. We have got only different school of thought. It's not sect.
And is the Ahmadiyya a different school of thought?
Ahmadiyya is not school of thought. Ahmadiyya is a kind of faith, whereas they have already tarnished the teaching of Islam itself. Therefore, we never agree to somebody who claim themselves Muslim, but they violate the teaching of Islam.
You're talking about the Ahmadiyya sect here, but what about the burning of the mosques? What about attacks against Jewish synagogues?
Those who burn and attack the house of worship, they deserve to be given a punishment by the government.
Would you agree with Andreas that there is a rise in fundamentalist Islam here in Indonesia?
No, I to a certain extent, I don't agree with him, because he has got a full right to say that. What happened right now, there are so many factors behind the mob and violence. Say, for example, economic factors, political factors, and so forth. So you just cannot blame that because of the group of radical, and I could say those who use Islam as the pretext to attack somebody. In fact, they have nothing to do with Islam itself. Islam is the teaching of peace.
The Constitution allows for 6 main religions here
Not the
in
Constitution.
Indonesia.
It was only a presidential decree made in 1965 by President Sukarno.
And that allows for 6 main religions here in
Yes.
Indonesia. Is it right that the state be allowed to dictate how people worship and what they worship?
I don't think the state should do that. That's why I said that by design, Indonesia is flawed, because its constitution says that there is religious freedom. But its president said that there are only 6 recognized religions. What does it mean? It means that other faiths are considered to be secondary citizens, secondary faith, to be compared with the 6th religion. And of course, there are other regulations like the anti-Ahmadiyya June 2008 regulation. There is also this, well, they call it house of worship regulation, but in fact, it only affects the Christian churches or other minority religions. It does not affect when people building a mosque, they don't necessarily take so many signatures that have to be submitted by the neighboring area.
Muhyiddin, what is your reply?
No, I don't think so. Even we Muslims, if we want to build a mosque, we need to get approval from those who live around the area. See, Brother Andreas, if Muslims live in, for example, Bali Island, where we are minority there, we just cannot build a mosque unless we get approval from those people who live in the area. At least we have to follow the rule and regulation.
Most Muslims in Indonesia live on the island of Java. 62% live on the island of Java. But other islands like Borneo, like Sulawesi, like Papua, they are much bigger islands. The native are predominantly Christians. And we rarely heard about mosques being burned, being attacked in those predominantly Christian areas.
So you're saying that many of the attacks mainly happen in majority Muslim areas?
If we take a look at the pattern, the most violence usually taking place in Western Java. There is historical reason for that, because this area used to be the enclave of the Darul Islam movement, which was trying to establish Indonesia as a Sharia-based country.
I want to talk about something that you raised a little earlier on. You talked about the Ahmadiyya perhaps being moved to a certain island apparently for their own protection. Do you think this is a good move for them?
Of course not. You cannot move people by force. You cannot move people out of their family members, friends, job, market, school for the children, etc., etc. So it is inhuman.
Muhyiddin, what do you think?
I don't agree at all, because as far as Islamic teaching is concerned, we are not allowed to force somebody to follow our faith. What we are objecting right from the beginning is the practice of our brothers from Ahmadiyya who still claim themselves as Muslims. See, for example, if you are Hindu or if you are Christian and somebody else claims themselves